As an artist, it's important I use the right colors for stuff. But I don't just mean using colors that look right, because something that's been found through studies time and time again is how colors actually do affect people. Now, you might think that everyone would associate a certain color with something different, and while that may be mostly true, there are some things that pretty much everyone seems to associate the same thing with, which could be due to it being evolutionarily ingrained into us. For example, red is pretty much always associated with heat or warmth, which I'm sure comes from fire. And aggression or fighting could be associated with it, because that's the color of blood. And if you see blood somewhere in the wild, chances are it's from a fight. Though other times the colors could just end up being used for something, then over time it gets connected to that thing or feeling. So that might be why we associate colors with things. But what do they all mean? Like, what do we actually associate the colors with? And for artists, which colors should you use for which situations? And I'm not just talking about your typical colors, I mean all the colors. Or at least as many as I can do before they start to get too hard to separate. So let's start with a well-known one. Red, as I already mentioned, is of course associated with warmth and heat, along with violence and anger. And because it's such a strong color, it actually has been shown to have some psychological effects. Like, there have been studies that show that it can increase appetite, or just generally make you hungrier by looking at it. This is why you'll see it being used a lot in fast food brands or marketing or even just decorations in restaurants. It kind of makes you wonder, like, if McDonald's used blue or green, would it even be as successful as it is today? Anyways, let's move on to blue. Another color that has been shown to cause psychological effects, such as calmness and relaxation. This is why something like a blue is a lot more common on things like baby toys or clothes. It actually calms you down. Then of course, for associations, it's always the cold color, which is a bit weird when you think about it, as ice isn't actually a color, and snow is white, and when it gets cold outside, the world doesn't just turn blue or anything. Actually, you see blue more in the summer with blue skies. You'd think gray or white would be associated with cold, but no, it's blue. Like, the only places you can actually see blue in ice is in the extremely cold areas of the world, like icebergs or glaciers. It's a bit weird. Also, remember how red was often used in fast food marketing? Well, I dare you to think of a fast food restaurant that uses blue in their logo. Seriously, stop and think about it. Whenever it's used, it's always either with another color, or it's actually more of a purple than a blue. And that's because blue has been shown to be linked with appetite suppression. If you see a blue packaged burger and a red packaged burger, you are more likely to choose the red packaged one. It's very interesting. Blue really is the opposite of red. You don't feel hunger like it, you feel calm instead of angry, it's cold instead of warm, and it's also a sad color, while red is more of a passionate color. Okay, but those are the well-known too. What about yellow? Well, yellow is the happy color. It's often associated with positivity and optimism, probably because most light in nature is yellow, and well-lit areas were always safer than dark areas where predators could lurk undetected. Though, there's also a part of yellow that's a bit off. It's bright and happy, sure, but it can also be overwhelming. Actually, I think we need to split them up a bit. This is happy yellow, the light, warm, happy one. And this is slightly off yellow. I'd say it's closer to the uncomfortable side, often associated with overwhelmment or anxiety, more than happy yellow. Yellow is also often used in construction signs or for indicating danger. But I think that has less to do with what people associate it with, and more to do with the fact that it's just a very bright color that could be used to stand out in pretty much all situations. Anyways, let's go green. Which, of course, is most thought of as the nature color. I mean, look outside. Assuming you're not in a city or on a boat in the middle of the ocean, you're statistically likely to see it. And that's because green is the best color for capturing light from the sun for photosynthesis, which of course is high on a plant's to-do list. And because nature is such a relaxing place to be most of the time, green is also associated with relaxation. But while blue was a more calm relaxation, green is a bit more of an explorative relaxation. It's between blue and yellow, so it's like it's got that calm part of blue, but also that exciting flair from yellow. It's also associated with freshness, which is why you often see it being used around things like fruits, vegetables, or cleaning supplies. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. What I said kind of applies more to the cooler greens, like your lime greens, forest greens, stuff like that. When it comes to the dry greens, like olive or avocado, they're more associated with peace or relaxation, tranquil forests and rivers, stuff like that. And that's because they're closer to the green you see out in nature. There's a lot more olive green in the world than there is neon green like you see in the supermarket. And since we're speaking of green, let's go over the cold ones, like mint or teal. Since these are closer to blue, they're a lot more associated with coolness or freshness, but they're also kind of associated with luxury or elegance. I think that might be because the place you're more likely to see these colors in nature is from crystals or warm tropical waters. They're also really good in bathrooms for some reason. I don't know why, I just always see them in there. Like, seriously, go to your local bathroom and you'll probably see it in there somewhere. Okay, orange. This is the energetic color. I see it most oftenly being used for fast-moving things or characters. It's also associated with creativity, and like yellow, it's often used for construction and danger. But again, that's probably just because it's a very bright color, so good for a lot of situations for warning people. Purple. Alright, we're going to need to break this one down a bit more since there's a lot that falls under the purple category. So I'm kind of going to shift to the different tones as we go through them. I'll start with this one, which is actually just called purple. Due to it being the hardest color to make in the past, it's very associated with luxury, wealth, and power. A very good color for like a powerful medieval kingdom to have or something. It's also associated with spirituality, or things like wisdom or just general mystical stuff. Though I think that applies less to the normal purple and more to the bluish purples, or violet. I picture this as being more magical than purple. Also, if you can't tell, I'm going to have to be kind of guessing and using my artistic ideas of what these colors would be associated with at this point. There's a lot of studies for things like red and blue, but when you start breaking down purple and violet, you're going places that hasn't really been studied yet. Anyways, moving on to magenta. This is often associated with romance more than red. It also seems to be considered a trendy color, used for a lot of fashion or design, along with being another energetic color. Though unlike yellows and oranges, which is more of a happy energy, this is more of a cool energy, like look at me, I'm magenta, I'm so cool type of energy. Though when you start getting into pink, it tends to lose that romantic part and leans more into the energy side. A lot more of a cheerful and bubbly color. It also seems to be associated with compassion, playfulness, positivity, and sensitivity. Just all the good, lovey stuff and whatnot. That's probably why it's also pretty associated with girls. It's just way too positive for most guys. Though I don't really know why blue is associated with guys. I feel like if anything, red would fit the best, but maybe it's just because red is too similar to pink. So blue was chosen because it's far away in the color wheel, and that's probably why. Anyways, let's get into white. White is of course the pure color. This is, out of all the colors, by far the most used on good things. Like, if you need to show evil and good with two colors, you're pretty much always going to go for white and black. It's also associated with simplicity and elegance. Just a good, clean color. And since I mentioned it, let's go over black, which is of course the dark color, great for villains or evil. It's also associated with power and strength, another good reason to use it for a villain, though it can also be used as a good color for sophistication and elegance. I see a lot of fancy clothes or decor using black as their main color. Then going into gray. Because it's in the middle of the two extremes, it's the neutral color. You're not going to be starting any wars over gray. It's also considered as a serious and professional color. Think like gray suits and business meetings. It's a great color for balance, but sometimes too much balance can lead to boredom and depression, which happens to be the other two things it's associated with. Alright, now let's move on to brown, or rather as many browns as I can, because there are a lot, and unfortunately now we're getting to a place where I wasn't able to find studies done on exact types of browns, so I'm going to be kind of using my artistic knowledge and some loose guessing based off of what I've seen it used with. Alright, so first let's go with burnt umber, which seems to be a good cozy color. It's got that warmth, like a cozy log cabin, or a warm bar of chocolate. I feel like this is why it works so well for furniture. I mean, like, sure, if you cut down a tree and turn it into a chair, it's gonna probably be some shade of brown naturally. So, like, you know, that's probably a big reason. But still, I feel like if the default color of a tree was like neon yellow or something, people would probably be painted it something else more than they do. The color brown is just a good cozy color for furniture and stuff. Then moving on to a lighter shade like caramel, which has a lot of the same things as burnt umber, but has more of an energy to it. While something like burnt umber may be good for like cozy log cabin, like I said, caramel kind of works more for a modern house. Like if a cabin was built in the jungle, in a tree or something, I don't know, I just feel like it would fit a lot better there. Now onto a more faded brown like camel. This I think of as a more sophisticated color. A good color for a suit or home decorating. It's bland, like oatmeal, but sometimes that's a good thing. I mean, I like oatmeal. It's also easy to use without fear of making your eyes bleed from the brightness of it. So I'd say it's a good, sophisticated, stylish color with a sprinkle of blandness. And just for tan, this is a good warm brown. Similar to camel, it's kind of like a sophisticated color, good for decorating, but also has more of a cheerful side to it. It might even be too overwhelming for an entire room color. And as you can probably tell, I'm running out of things to say about brown, so that's enough of that. Though I do want to quickly go back and fill in some colors that I feel like I missed. Like cyan, which I often see being used for more futuristic things like cyberpunk. I'm not really sure why that is, perhaps it's just because it's a very powerful color. Like, it's the kind of color you'd expect electricity to be. It's extremely bright, like eye-burningly bright. Like, look at this and tell me your eyes don't feel sore from staring at it. And, oh yeah, there's one more color I forgot to mention, which is neon yellow, which is most often associated with toxic waste, and that's about it, I guess. There's nothing good about it. It's a horrible color that should be banned from the color wheel. And if you disagree, you should watch this video. But I know one thing you'll definitely agree with, and that's that neon yellow is associated with nothing good.